Mark in the count. The swing arm now coming back as our countdown continues.
Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. I am Brick Something. Welcome to the Brick Something News. And today I'm super hyped to have I was going to say the company, but the couple, the crew of Corsair Creations. We've got Quaid and Abigail Kundal today. Look at that. Fully their first and last name there. Maybe some ordering-ish. But anyways, whatever. Hi, guys. How are you?
Right. Doing all right. It's great to be here.
Welcome back, and Abigail, welcome to the show. I'm bummed that we didn't have you the first time, especially after Quaid and I started talking and your name kept coming out. I was like,
right,
why isn't she on
I
here?
know, yeah. I watched, I think, pretty much the whole live stream, and it was like, they had such a great conversation. So
And Mom was on the chat and everything too, and I was like, everybody jump on. No, it was
fantastic.
Really cool. It was great.
At work while that stream went live after the pre-record, so that was kind of fun to watch because both the wife and the mom were on the live stream. It was cool.
I love it. Well, that was back in August, folks. If you're unfamiliar, definitely go check that out, because that was, if I'm not mistaken, that was the first sort of stream that you all did talking about the line, right?
The product images had been available for like a week, maybe.
Right. Yeah, and I was like, I know what I like. I like saw it. I was like, please come on, let's talk. And
exactly.
So I'm glad you took me up on it, because I really, as folks know, I'm a big fan of indie toy makers and independent art. And when it's stuff that I like, I would love to platform it and just tell folks, hey, check this out. Be ready.
People's throat.
Yeah, kind of. So this was August, and back then, since then, like you've been on quite a few different streams. Can we shout out some of the folks that you've been able to hang out with recently?
Yeah, there was Masters of the Thunder Nerds that wasn't very long ago, it was maybe a week ago. There was Geeked Out Click, which was, I think, also fairly early on in the streams.
Yep.
There's actually, I'm gonna sound like the worst person ever. There's been so many that I've been on for like the last 30 days.
Oh, sure.
That keeping track of everybody, and then most of them were new names to me. So I have a whole spreadsheet of everybody but each and every one is on the website now. Actually, if you go to that video tab,
okay,
you can find
we'll take a look. Great. And I apologize. I didn't mean to put you on the spot like that. It just occurred to me. I enjoyed seeing you guys with Ronald and Jesse over on the collection N.E.W.S. One of my favorite channels and shows. And I thought that was kind of cool to sort of hear your history with toys, your present and all that. So shout out to those guys. I absolutely love those guys and love their show, and can't wait to see what comes up next. Luckily, I think they were able to sort of save your show. And I think right now that might be the only one that's on there. And I think they're sort of regrouping. So look out for what they do. Definitely check out the interview with Quaid on that show.
We had a good conversation.
I thought it was great. Okay, well, we'll definitely make sure that we take a look at the other shows and shout them out. But I'm glad you're here. And today, I want to hear, like, I know there's updates. I've been following sort of what's been happening on IG, but really the new thing that's developed that was in its early infancy, I think when we talked, was the website. And the website has really kind of become this really cool kind of like repository, either one, of lore of, hey, get ready for the Kickstarter. And I didn't even realize, like, hey, check out all the different shows we've been on. So like, it really is the great one-stop shop. So I want to spend some time on there today. Sound good?
Absolutely. It's that central hub for
Mhm.
everything that you scroll through Instagram and you kind of have to piecemeal things. Everything's there, but it's all in very bite-sized pockets, and the website is meant to be digested in large spurts.
Yeah.
There's all that information organized and tailored to which subject it goes with. Whereas Instagram, it flashes back in 30 seconds, and that's all you get.
Right. Totally. Okay. Well, we'll spend the time there. And I also love the sort of branding and how you're kind of create things and featuring the artists that you're working with. So we'll definitely talk that. But we should also say hello to and welcome all the folks who are joining us live today on this beautiful Sunday. I'm looking out the window. Yep. In fact, it is beautiful. But hey, we're indoors. Fellow West Coaster. What's up, man? Good to see you. Recon Rage, all the rage. Larry's Geeky World is here. Good to see you, along with this guy, Mr. Ryan Clark. If folks missed it, go check out Larry's Geeky World stream yesterday with Mr. Ryan Clark. Always a good term. Anyways, it's gonna be one of those. Welcome, Abigail. Listen to me stumble. What's up, Adam? Highly articulated. Good to see you. Ahoy, nerds. And he had a question here earlier. Always fun for you guys. The real question.
Who's the captain? I'm pretty
done.
sure Brick's the captain today.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Hopefully this show is seaworthy. What's going on, Rick Jones? Ahoy, mateys. Good to see you, buddy. Yeah, see, Larry's on it. He knows what's up. Hey, what's up, Rowdy Riles? Fighting the good fight. I appreciate you so much. Let people claim that you're divisive. They're wrong. You're uniting the good stuff. I appreciate you so much. Sending love. Nolan, what's up, man? Be careful as you drive home, man. And hope you don't get seasick. Let's see. Oh, spaded 1 muck dysentery. I got a fever, and the only prescription is vitamin ARG. Cool.
That's a pinned comment for today, I think.
Yeah.
Hey, Alan, what's going on, man? Vine Jungle Figure Factory. Howdy, a pirate's a life for me. I love it. Love it. Oh, man, if this guy gets his hands on your figures, he's going to do some amazing stuff. Yeah,
Blow
such
everyone out of the water.
Artist, custom. Oh, look at that. We're just going to keep them going. I love it. And I'm the only dad here.
Yes.
So I'm the dad joke guy. Leia Glacia, good to see you. She will always be royalty to me. JMax77, great to see you here today. Andrew Gady's Toys is here. Justin B, happy Sunday. Josh Brown Toys of Josh Brown Customs and Just Josh Brown. What's going on? This guy, fresh from the seas of Arizona. What's up, man? Good to see you. Let's see.
I've never seen Arizona myself, so I don't.
There's water sometimes. I've seen it.
Somewhere.
But what's up, Jeff? Jeff Evans, J Evans 24. What's up, my cosmic friend? All right, and Jeff, there you go. We are painting a stone troll while as we speak. But I'm sure you're speaking too on the other side, Alan. We can't hear you, but keep speaking. All right. Let us talk about your stuff. And let me go ahead and bring this up here. Add to stage. I often narrate. It's a thing old people do.
Narration is the best part of the job.
Yes.
Yes. Check this out. It's the Tide Realm Corsairs website available at tiderealmcorsairs.com.
There we
guys
go.
got yourself a .com. Anyways, okay, so the website featuring its splashy background that is guaranteed to make you nauseous if you stare too long.
Exactly.
Okay, so it truly is. Yes, it's. I'm just going to do this the whole show too, just to. The Tide Realm Corsairs. First off, so if people are confused, if you go back to that August show, let's start here. We were calling your company the toy line a different thing because you'd really started early. You'd kind of put it out there. So don't get it twisted. This is that same group from August. The line is now called Tide Realm Corsairs to sort of avoid conflict with other existing properties, etc. I know
It
Quaid and
was
I with this. Go ahead.
something that got changed simply because while the title was cool, it was actually not broad enough to be describing what we were looking to achieve. And it was very isolated within a specific point in time, and the terminology was associated with a specific character. And it didn't leave much room for growth later, despite how well it may have rolled off the tongue. So we
Sure.
updated it to a title very quickly once we realized that we needed a broader term to visualize the growth we intended for the line. So Tide Realm was already very well baked into the lore, and so was the
Yep.
word Corsairs, and it was highly direct towards what we were doing. So it didn't actually take as long as we thought for it to catch on. And
Yeah.
half the time now, I don't even think about the old name. I think it's only been brought up to me like twice since then. Once at Legion's Con, and maybe once a couple weeks ago.
Oh, I'm sure probably by me early on too. And I was like, hey, what do you think of this? But at the end of that conversation of you and me, like, you know, as I said, great. You know, it's like sailing. You figure your course and you just go, and everybody's just gonna go with it. And but
It
at
seems
the
like
end of the
we're
day,
all just fine.
yeah, and just what you said, I think there is story-wise, the phrase "Tide Realm Corsairs" describes the players, describes the world. So could we start there for the big picture, and then we'll kind of go into the lore? What is the Tide Realm, and who are these Corsairs?
The Tide Realm is that all-encompassing phrase for the mass of islands that make up this world at large. And that map that we revealed simultaneously with the toys is what's been revealed of the world so far. Obviously, it's
Mhm.
primarily composed of sea, so there's
Yep.
endless boundary or non-existent boundaries anyway to that map. And so the three main islands that circulate around this kind of year one story is what we've revealed so far. And at the center of that is this kind of crucible of events and conflict called the Mob, the Abyss, and that's what the
Yeah.
final battle very much circulates around these three guys. So the whole landscape is meant to continually keep things moving, and they're all related
Mhm.
to each other in one fashion or the other. And the Corsairs is very much that broadest sense of the word of pirates. Those are our characters. Each of these figures could be referred to as a Corsair, despite the fact that their
Yep.
factions are completely unique into what each character is.
Yep. Love it. And so effectively Tide Realm, I know it doesn't it's not necessarily the name of the place, but it's effectively your Cybertron, your Eternia. This is where the story takes place. And it
Absolutely.
really is the Corsairs. Yep. And the Corsairs being, you know, high seas, piracy, you know, that kind of thing. Like that all recalls that. Because that's what we're talking here. We're talking fantasy pirates, which fantasy on the seas, if you will. Like I absolutely love this because it's a combination of things. Yes, it's pirates, and I know a lot of folks are like, yeah, you know, I want the sort of traditional whatever Treasure Island, Pirates of the Caribbean by Disney
Right.
kind of vibe. They've been itching for that in terms of toys. And when you started posting these prototypes that you famously worked with and are working with the Four Horsemen to sculpt and produce these, when folks saw these, there was absolutely an excitement. Like, yes, it was because partially the Four Horsemen were involved, and obviously it's
Right.
because they're just dope looking characters.
Right.
But there definitely were, like, immediately you saw from the people chiming in are just like, yes, pirate line. We've been wanting a pirate line. It's been too long. So here we are. And what I appreciate though is the blend of sort of this, you know, murky, I will say. I'm avoiding dark because it's not like a grimdark thing, but this sort of like
Right.
fun murk of the depths fantasy, capital F, that you're conjuring up in these. And
It's very
so,
much supposed to, you know, the dark tone is intentional, but there is
yeah,
some measure of playful levity throughout a majority of the story content. And then just the fact that, you know, we chose a very dark and gritty color palette for the story and
yeah,
the line as a whole. But it was very important to us that these characters stand out on the shelf and in the packaging. And so we found some ways that we were really happy with at the end of the day to get pops of color into a world that is normally feels kind of restrictive as far as its palette goes. we haven't found it restrictive at all based on the world we've shaped around it anyway.
So for those who are kind of, maybe this is the first time you heard about it, this is a brand new toy line that these two, as their company, are putting together in collaboration. Or they actually sort of hired the Four Horsemen, and I am, as we talked last time, Corn Boy has been your sort of main point of contact, sort of
Absolutely.
nurturing the project with you all.
Nurturing is the right
and
word
so,
for sure.
yeah. And so when we say coming soon to Kickstarter, you know, I know that's probably going to come up, and there may be people wondering. I know you're targeting sort of earlier at some point in 2026, and you've been already working on that, right? That's all the behind the scenes Kickstarter stuff has been happening to get it ready to go. Is that right?
That's a daily pursuit at this point.
Yes. In fact, I saw your message earlier talking about your day having to go back. You're
Right.
not alone in this. I know there are folks in the chat like Adam who's had a lot of experience working with Kickstarter, and every time I talk to someone who's worked on Kickstarter, I've never heard anyone go, "Oh my God, it's so easy, it's so perfect, everything's wonderful." So you're not alone. You're not alone.
Nothing but cry yesterday trying to get everything sorted out for the second time, but
Can confirm.
It was a long day.
Okay. But do you have is there a sense of, are we thinking like the first half of 2026, the later half, or are there things still to be determined?
We do not want to wait longer than May. However, we are still waiting for official factory quotes to get our exact numbers locked in for every level of all the many facets of turning gears that the Kickstarter has in order to get everything accurate. We're still waiting for those to come through from Four Horsemen. I'm actually going to be in a meeting with them tomorrow talking about some of those things again. So things are clicking. It's just a slow process because there's nothing linear about it, but that's as long as we want to wait. If things take slightly longer than we're expecting when it comes to getting those numbers, then it might get pushed back a month or so. But at this point, we don't have any reason to believe that.
That makes sense. You just kind of got to ride the tide, right? It's not linear. Sometimes it's a rocking back and forth. Sometimes it's a whirlpool, and you'll eventually going down, you know, the whirlpool.
Right? Exactly. Maw of the Abyss is what I've been looking down for the last year.
Abigail picked up what I was laying down. Yes, the maw. Okay, so real quick, there have been some folks jumping in. I want to say hello. What's going on? E. McNeil, always wonderful to see you. And I want to highlight this. Actually, before that, you know, people continue to respond well to what you're doing. Rowdy's saying these are so cool. This one, I know this is not the first time you've heard this. Hold on, let me put my guests. There you go. Hide my face. I'm like the dude from what was that? Home Improvement. Hey, neighbors. Hi ho, neighbor. Sorry. The reaction. Gades. Andrew Gades Toys is saying Cap Charybdis is my jam. So I love that because I know you've heard and you've been able to see from the metrics. You mentioned this last time, like, oh, certain ones seem to get a lot of clicks. But there's definitely something, even though you're doing a small 3-figure wave, I should say not small, negative way, a reasonable, manageable, smart sized assortment of figures for your first wave. But there are 3 very different looks, despite, you know, doing the action figure magic of using very similar body types and some reuse and stuff.
These guys actually shared, I think, probably not even, if I was to break it down by percentages, it might be 40 to 45% of the parts between each other. But even that is probably pushing it simply because it's the thighs, the torso, the upper arms, and the pelvis. And that's about it when it comes to these guys.
And so, like, you know, but the nice thing is there's the variety there, which is very much about your sort of like tri-part struggle that you broke down last time. But it gives us 3 very unique sort of characters and factions, even like, you know, creeds, if you will, since I know there are sort of these giant gods that are involved that we'll take a look at in a second.
Absolutely.
But I'm curious, last time we spoke, you said that Captain Algold Deathmoid here on the far left seemed to be getting a lot of the attention on social media. Is that still hold true?
That has not only held true, but it only continues to to break
Sure.
the
Go.
records online. Just a few days ago, we posted. I
Huh.
I seriously just shot it in an afternoon. It took probably 15 minutes for all three guys, and just put them on the dioramas and threw them
Right.
on the turntable just to get them out there
Mm-hmm.
again.
Mm-hmm.
And Deathmoid has absolutely broken every record there is on at least Instagram. These guys they tend to get, if you do kind of a breakdown of them, they tend to get about 1,000 or more views on average. But it's approaching 7,000 as of today.
Interesting.
Just him alone.
Interesting. Well, I think Alec Laughlin, good to see you in these parts, man. I love it. People take their sides. Charybdis will kick Bone Boy's ass. So, I think that's the energy here. It's like, hey, yeah, there's three
That's
different
exactly
things as
the
part of this
energy.
world. Yes, it's like, and they're all fighting, and let's go. Let's root for our favorites, right? You choose
Precisely.
yours, kind of a thing. Yeah, and I really like. There was definitely something iconic. We talked about this before to Deathmoid. There's a reason why Skeletor lives on, why they
Uh-huh.
went back to the well with Scareglow, and why the Warrior Beasts, if you're familiar with that Remco line,
Mhm.
they did their version. Like it hits the skull thing, Eddie, Iron Maiden, whatever. It's so classic, and just this look, I get it. I
Tried and
totally,
true
totally get
motif.
it. Yeah. That said, you know, dude's a handsome dude. He's got some, we got to give him a
I
little
always
love. And
I always have to chuckle the fact that Alistair, I mean the big ugly guys get all the attention, and yet Alistair is maybe the one that on a personal just product level I'm
uh
most excited about, because he's the pirate we're asking for. He's very much
right,
something that can
right.
exist by himself, even without these two, and be cool for that reason specifically. The
It's
other
true.
two are complementing him, not the other way around. So I'm enthralled with how the captain specifically has turned out. And of course, I'm generally going to lean towards the good guy anyway, as far as my storytelling preferences go. But he's going to be, I think, the most fun to handle, specifically because of how integrated his weaponry is just to himself. But Charybdis is
Very.
the pretty boy. He just is.
I was
It's
gonna say, here we
hard to get
go.
around that one.
Yeah, I mean that is such a beautiful
Charybdis
head
was
head
so
sculpt.
fun to see come to life, simply because the other two took a couple passes. Alistair was maybe once or twice to get, because it's horsemen. They've got, tried and true veterans of the field as is. But, Alistair took a few times to get his proportions right, and he was the one that established everyone's proportions to begin with. And then Deathmoid took a lot. He took probably 3 passes to get that face specifically exactly what we wanted. But Charybdis,
Uh,
by the time, because he was the last one that we worked on, and by the time he was ready to go, he was one shot wonder. Just when it came to the first color pass, first rendering pass, all the concept
sure.
stuff, it was boom, 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 done. Even though he's probably the most visually complex.
I love the look of Charybdis. It's very classic. Again, all three of these things, I know we've gone on and on about the skull being classic. The pirate obviously is very classic as well. There's an archetype there that people resonate with. But
Mm,
same goes for Charybdis, right? I mean, it's very much the eldritch horrors, of
absolutely.
Lovecraftian lore. So I think it's really cool. And he is of the sea, like compared to these other two, which I think is really cool. Abigail, curious, what about you? Do you have things that you sort of love about certain ones? Can you choose a favorite among your children?
I mean, I'm probably always going to go more for the human character, just because the good guy, for one, is more relatable to me. But there
Mhm.
are some characters that still haven't been brought out into the product world that I'm super excited about.
We
Love
talk
that.
about Snitch the Crab all the time, because that's this little lady's favorite to write. And Snitch is
Ah,
pretty much based entirely. I mean, this is fun for a ton of reasons to work on together as a couple. And one of those structural things that we seem to complement each other on is that I'm able to
yep,
do a lot of the structural building work of what makes the character what it is, or what makes the place what it is. Draw out just kind of the basic silhouette and design of who we're thinking at, and then this gal is the one that kind of interjects everybody with all the character. And so,
Yeah, she
functionally,
brings
I'm
them
coming
to
up with
life.
right all the things that make Snitch important to the story. She's coming up with all the things that make Snitch endearing to the audience.
How was that process, Abigail, for you, sort of like working in this world and like having this, playing this part? Like, can you tell me a little bit more of how you guys actually come together and go about doing the work and building out this world and this line?
Oh yeah, yeah. So like Quaid was saying, he basically creates the skeleton and then I add all of the detail to what we're
Uh-huh.
doing. And how that looks is we'll bounce back and forth on how we want the character to be or
Mhm.
exactly what our goal is for the chapter. And then I'll go, okay, well, how about this? And so
Mhm.
throw out a few ideas, and oftentimes it's almost like it just writes itself. I do really well whenever I know what the end goal is, what the character is
Mhm.
supposed to be like. And as soon as I know those details and I didn't have to come up with it myself, I can just throw it out there. I was the kid writing fan fiction for series I
Yeah.
loved. So he creates the story and then I flesh out the story.
Yeah, absolutely. And I get that. And of course I'm assuming that it that become the waters get muddied at times when you're gonna create some new things along the way. And it's this
Mhm.
beautiful collaboration. So I really appreciate hearing about people's sort of process and how they work with one another. And I think it's really great that the two of you found this thing to work on together. And we're benefiting at the end of the day. The rest of us are
Right.
going to like walk away with a cool new story, a cool new world that I'm sure at some point other people will be writing fan fiction about. So real
That's
quick,
the
since
whole
we're
goal, is to
there,
give folks
yep. And since
that
we're there, because I know
sandbox play
last
pattern.
time, sorry, yes, Sandbox or come on, man, he was right there. Okay, anyways, uh, when we talked last time, you also mentioned that you do bring in sort of that writing background, Abigail. Can you tell me kind of the things that, just in general, what are the fandoms and stories that you gravitate towards to help us kind of understand what sort of informs what you're now doing in creating this world? Like what are you into? I know this guy's Transformers guy, and I know he might have gotten you hooked a little bit on that too. But what are your things?
Oh, I've always been interested in fantasy books.
Uh-huh.
One of my favorite series was always Percy Jackson.
Mm.
That's a really good one. I probably
Mhm.
bought just about every book that author ever wrote because I just loved the world that he created. And then another one of my favorites is Fablehaven by Brandon Mull.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's super popular or not because a lot of people go, "What's that?" It's really
The
good, is
only
what it
reason, and I
is.
don't mean to interject, but I will say that the only reason I know is that I had a student at the school that I taught at previously. Like we'd have this thing called silent sustained reading, and she was always reading these books, and I was like, "What is this?" And just always kind of curious what
Mhm.
kids are into, and it was those books. And I was like, "Oh," so she introduced me to that as well as a bunch of other like cool like fantasy worlds that I didn't know about. So that's great.
She
What
read
else?
pretty
What else
much
is on your?
Oh,
She read
Harry
everything.
Potter for sure. Definitely
Mhm.
Harry Potter, Narnia, Lord of the Rings, a lot of the really good classic ones out there.
Love it.
Just love to get immersed, so it's really exciting to be writing something of our own without having to
Yes.
think everything out from the ground up by myself.
No, I think it's great, especially if you're, forgive the term, consumer of different sort of fandoms and universes and fiction. I think it's great. Like you're seeing how other people build their worlds, and now to be able to do this, you're bringing in that. I think it's cool.
Mhm.
I love it.
She's
Love
very
it. Love it. Love it.
well versed in that whole pattern of crafting storytelling to begin with. Just being that was what made me latch on to begin with, was the book girl. But she
I
read the
love
whole
it.
Fablehaven series to me while we were dating long distance for the first 5, 6, 7, 8, however many months that was. So
Too many months.
yeah,
That's awesome. So after all that, can you read now yourself, or?
yeah, I finally learned to read after all that
Okay,
time.
good.
I taught him.
Good. I just checking. I love that. All right. Let's see. What's up? Another awesome toy maker himself, Sebastian Gomez. Thanks for joining us. I wanted to go ahead and highlight a couple of things because, again, these are going to be on Kickstarter soon. Before we get too deep into the lore, Alec was pointing out, what was that? He was pointing out the involvement of the Four Horsemen. I'm so sometimes real good with this chat thing and sometimes not. So he was saying having the Horsemen on board really gives me reassurance that this Kickstarter will follow through and go smoothly. Really excited for these. Can you give us a sense of truly give the folks a sense of really how instrumental they are in that and how they help you as truly this is your first effort at trying to do toys, how they've just helped turn your ideas into reality. Give us a little bit of that. I know we touched on it last time, but just to let folks know their involvement.
The Horsemen have shepherded this themselves. Well, not obviously not entirely themselves, but they have shepherded it on a personal level since the beginning, because we really did just reach out on the baseline of how would you do a toy line by yourself with next to no prior experience. And they just took us seriously on that baseline to begin with. And Cornboy, at least, was very, very confident just in someone who's serious about the project being able to do exactly what they did many, many years ago with Legions and have had plenty of success ever since then. They themselves are still working with Kickstarter as a brand. They'll be looking at that RPG game, I think this month, if not next. So they're very well versed in the lingo to begin with and what it takes to get something like this off the ground. But first and foremost, they are best at prioritizing what gets people coming back to begin with, which is just a good toy. And that's where you start. And so, once we had our concept in front of them, they were even more ecstatic and even more interested in just seeing where it would go. Cornboy specifically tells me all the time how interested he is in seeing how this Kickstarter will go. And they are instrumental, as far as our role goes. This is something we even plan on touching on later on our channels, specifically just diving into the mechanics of whose role fits into what part of the story when it comes to getting something like this off the ground. And it's pretty much 50-50 as far as who does what, but the Horsemen, of course, mainly handle guiding the manufacturing stage of everything once the Kickstarter has gone through. But because we have so many people in our corner who are already so very, very versed in the whole conversation, it's not very hard to get information surrounding how the whole entity, how the organism of Kickstarter functions, and what all the best practices are of keeping transparency and making sure that the campaign structurally is as strong as humanly possible. And so that's complicated to do as a two-person, sometimes one-person unit on getting it all situated, but there's not anything that I can't go to the Horsemen about if I have a concern. And there's so many industry professionals that are already within this sphere that are, have sailed these waters, so to speak, already, and are more than happy to share any insight. But the Horsemen are very, very key players in getting this fulfilled. Is going to be a long haul because that's the nature of the product. But people are very correct to have the utmost confidence, and everybody that's putting this forward, because there's not a single player in this group that doesn't have the best intentions and the best resources possible to get it into people's hands.
Yeah, no, and I know I'm assuming that means you're working with does Chris have a hand and sort of I'm assuming you're working with them and their factories and then that kind of thing. Are you okay? So they're handling production and managing all that for you as well, which 100% is, to Alex's point, it gives people so much assurance, because I've found, and selfishly being involved with Animal Warriors of the Kingdom, it's not so much that it's not so much that these Kickstarters, that they're obviously, no one wants to fail. And I don't think, especially the ones that I've sort of covered and backed myself, it's a matter of they're not trying, they're not working really hard. But what makes the world of difference is working with people with experience and that knowledge, and the Four Horsemen have it in spades. So you're working with good folks. are going to get you a good quote, are going to be able to follow up with that factory to really get these done. And correct me if I'm wrong, if per our last conversations, weren't they also helping you figure out what this first wave should be and how many characters you should focus in on? Did they have a hand in saying, hey, just focus on the 3 figures at first?
They helped us, narrow down what our strongest characters were, and as far as the
Yeah.
narrative to push to begin with in order to narrow down which products would make the best
Got
leading figures.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it was my decision as far as what we were able to afford to prototype to begin with.
Sure.
But yes, they very much had a hand in shaping what would make a strong wave to begin with. And 3 has served us really, really well for this first time around on multiple levels. I'm actually continually thankful that that's what we're working with.
That's that 3 is the magic number, for sure. And I think not enough can be said about the 4 Horsemen and what they can do for their own, for toys in general, for their lines, but also what they've done to support other indie creators like yourself.
Absolutely.
So I'm with Alec. It helps so much to know that they're involved, but it does raise some questions for some folks, which I also understand. I know some people then want to say, hey, like here's Justin asking, how will this be different from what the 4 Horsemen is doing with their C stuff, or will it complement it? And I think, if I may, essentially, like this is obviously very different. Like the 4 Horsemen create their own lines completely separately, and they're still very much work for other companies and are available to be work for hire and collaborate with folks. So they still work with bigger toy companies, companies of similar sizes to design things, to help with things. And in this case, you hired them to work with these figures. So 4 Horsemen, Mythic Legions, Cosmic Legions, and their recent wave, Dawns of Discovery, while it's sort of C-centered, very different and separate, very much separate from this. And I remember from the Collection Nexus, you were even saying like, yeah, there's not even, like some people were asking, will these pop and swap? Like, no, they're 2 completely different things.
Yep.
Will they complement one another? I think absolutely. Of course, no brainer, right? Like, yeah, my koi will be chilling with Charybdis for sure.
Absolutely. That's precisely what's going to be going on.
Yeah. So anyway, great. Love that they're there. Let's go ahead and let's see really quickly, just so you get a sense of how people are responding. Alan is Vine Jungle Figure Factory is very much about Charybdis and has some thoughts. Captain Charybdis has me the most excited. I want to see his crew. And he also thinks that Charybdis sleeps inside a giant clam. Can you confirm?
That might actually be a little cushier than what Charybdis is used to.
Okay. Fair enough. Let's see. He's the pearl, though. Anyway, hello to Allison. Love to see you here always. Grumps, I saw you in here too. There he is. And then Kenzo, who wants to hassle me with sports, but he's a big fan of the bone face. I don't know if you can tell from his thumbnail.
Yeah, I think I got that.
Anyone who argues is a royal boob. Yes, well done. Well done.
We're highly interested in seeing Charybdis's crew as well, and I'm afraid that all I can allude to is just that you guys think that sea creature thing is cool, then keep coming back to the Tide Realms, because we have more things down the pipeline than can probably be imagined on a practical level. And that's where some of that artwork actually later comes down into play.
Yeah. Discover the crew. So yeah, again, I know you're only developing the 3 figures for this Kickstarter, but you and Abby has had a big role in creating this world. So you've already you have a setting for this. You have a story. You have a larger world, as well as characters in this world that are ready, depending on how successful things are, and they'll be successful. But depending on how successful, we move forward with all sorts of other figures. So on that note, Alex here, and we'll get to the crew in a second, and we can kind of maybe take a look at this, what he's asking. But assuming these initial figures do well, are there plans for other pirate or sea themed figures that aren't necessarily humanoid? I would love a 112 shark or giant octopus on the shelf. So let's take a look at the crew, the world that you've built so far for each of these captains, and maybe that'll help give some sense of what you guys are thinking.
Right.
What am I looking
That
at here?
answers those questions.
So yeah, can you break down what we're seeing here? So and who's the artist again? Remind us, and let's
So
give
this
them.
was done by our good buddy Noah at Edge Comics, and he is a young and blooming comic book artist. I've called him McFarlane Jr. for most of the time that I've been talking with him, because he anything he puts his hand to, it doesn't matter. He could draw a deflating beach ball on the shoreline, and it would look just as epic as these do. So we found him, or rather found his uncle Omar talking about him a little bit within the Cabal, and he had drawn just some stuff of the Horsemen already. I think what I found was his rendition of Beathir, and that got my attention immediately. And so I very much wanted that flavor all over this world, because it was precisely the tone that we were looking for. So these 3 illustrations were, his rendition of giving us just a little taste of each of these 3 factions as population, who takes part on each ship, and what exactly makes each faction unique from each other. And he did a fantastic job separating, they all have a very specific environment that they're within. Most of this is based off of concept art that we have in the background that nobody's ever seen before. And so these are the only official public depictions of some of these characters. Some of these guys are even named, and I'm going to encourage folks to go into the Pirates Codex and go through the story tab and dissect some of those elaborations on this world, because a lot of these guys are named, and you can get a good sense of who, especially these folks being the Tideborn, belonging to Captain Charybdis, have a lot of personality to them, and their characters in the background that go with Charybdis that aren't even illustrated here, that are just as interesting. And here we have our little buddy Snitch in the corner there, who is about to probably have a big, fat, continual marketing push leading up to the Kickstarter, because he's kind of the company mascot next to, some
That's
of
cool.
the world building that surrounds the gods specifically. Snitch is somebody that I think is going to keep people coming back to just for entertainment value's sake. But the people and the places within Tide Realms all complement each other on an intrinsic level. And Deathmoid and his crew, the Perished, are, you think Deathmoid's nasty? You guys should see some of the people that live with him. It's diabolical. So I'm just saying, if you guys like skeletons, you haven't even seen the half of it. Deathmoid is the vanilla skeleton pirate. Everybody else
well teased
is even more so. And then the Gentleman of Fortune, of course, on the left there, going with Alistair Morningstar.
Yes.
Those are our tried and true classic pirate characters. And everybody that we have going on in the background, it's, of course, very, very subtle and focused on our produced figure for this illustration. But there's 6 or 7 crew members to each of these factions.
So far.
Okay.
So far, by the way. Yeah.
So
and
far.
The female character here being Kezia Capstan is probably, next to Alistair, the second biggest player within the storyline as far as the human faction goes in. Now, she's an ambitious character just on a product line, because of course she's going to require entirely new sculpting if we want her to come into reality. But we expect folks to get just as attached to her as Snitch, because her role is pivotal.
Very cool. I love it. And hopefully we can get her sooner than later, man. I'm kind of a little bit fatigued by, no offense to you and the other great creators who I know, including Jason from Animal Warriors of the Kingdom, who I love so much. But it takes us so long to get women in these worlds. I feel bad for these guys, man. They're at sea.
Long
like, no,
drag, drag on.
Not to be heterosexist or anything. Yeah.
When in heaven's name do we get to interject some estrogen into this world? Good Lord.
Well, but it'll be great to see her. And you said her name is Kezia?
Kezia Capstan.
Gotcha.
Her
love it. And so
given
you
nickname is Gold Digger.
Oh. but she ain't going. Never mind. Sorry, I had a Kanye moment there for a second. So let's talk about the big picture of the world, the gods who shaped them. So there is a larger lore, right? So again, I don't know. I know you came last time with sort of like your original sort of notebook and all your early ideas for the world, your early map. And so I know that exists, and I know you're building the towards these three figures initially with all that in mind. And I love that you shared this on the website, and I heard you talk a little bit more about it again over on the Collection Nexus with Ronald and Jesse. Can you talk to us about what's going on here and how that sets up the sort of conflict of this world?
These three characters are the conflict of the world. They are kind of that central conduit for what makes the Tide Realm what it is, and their absence is what's put it into the chaotic state that it is. You have Starzoa, Osius, and Hurricane being essentially the three creators of the Tide Realm. It's their battles and their kind of inability to find this balance of unity between each other that brings all of this creation out of that chaos. So they have kind of this beautiful pantheon of battle-worn inspiration as far as their influence over the land. And they have this one, final ending battle between the three of them that puts the world into the state we find it now. And it's also what leaves that maw of the abyss open to be either to be influenced anyway by any of these three captains here. And that, of course, is that central hub for conflict. Starazoa being the kind of, it's interesting because the relationship that these three gods have with our main characters, especially our captains, while it's pretty easy to tell aesthetically who each of these gods might be paired with, story-wise, is where the alliances start to blur. Starazoa finds himself having to guide a different level of mortality than he initially shepherded. And he's having to rethink some of his intentions surrounding, because he's essentially kind of the father of the sea. And he's brought everything that's good and renewable into the world. And then, of course, you have his brother here, Osius, the pirate father of death. And each of these guys' motivations and role within the world is, of course, not necessarily intended to have this negative influence until they are paired with each other. So death is simply another function and passing of the torch within creation as it would be. But Osius himself finds other ambitions within creation and sees little holes within Starzoa's kind of mantra surrounding what's making the world what it is, and he does not agree with them in the slightest. And so while he might be... Go right ahead.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt the flow, but I just wanted to make sure I understood the sort of connections and the setup right. So the first, you said over here, we've got Starazoa, who was essentially the creator of the world, the oceans, creator of the seas. And you said he sort of has a sense of like what this is supposed to be. You mentioned mortality, but he's the creator. He's the nurture, I guess. Yeah. The creator of all of this. Then his brother is essentially like a god of death. And so there's that tension there. I created this stuff. You've created this. Now you, my brother, have created this piece of like decay and death. And so there's a little bit of that. Is that the tension?
Yes, he sees it as this kind of uncontrollable, swirling piece of chaos. And all of these created beings have choices that they're able to make of their own will for some reason, and he doesn't agree with order autonomy that's been offered to creation. And then on the flip side, we have Hurricane, which is very much the answer to being the mortal's pirate god. Specifically, he's very much this almost combiner type character. He's a large
you Transformers nerd.
Right, exactly. He's a shipwreck come to life. But his role within that, triad pantheon is simply that he's kind of that straw that breaks the camel's back. He is not on either side. This character is very much out for himself. He's opportunist by nature. He sees mortality as more of this thing to be tamed. The people within it are
I
this
see.
kind of plaything for him. And so long as it is serving him and they too are influenced by his, it's Hurricane is very much the one who's interjecting a measure of self-interest into creation, whereas the other two are that balance. He's the one that strikes that teetering edge. And so mainly that aesthetic that we established for all three of them, we wanted represented in something that would push any one of those three captains and those three factions in a different direction, depending on who was influencing them, not necessarily who informed them in the beginning.
Oh. Okay, I love it because again, this creates context. There's the world, there's the sort of three gods that sort of governs not the right word because as you said, they've been absent, and that creates some of the tension in the world. But I love I mentioned this last time, but I really love the different elements that you're working with story wise. I think it creates like all sorts of fun possibility and conflict
Absolutely.
and tension and
Possibility
drama.
was very much what we wanted most, was to give open-ended answers to a fleshed out motivational sphere for everybody.
And I know it's really early, and this is just again to build the world. You're going to focus on the three figures first, but these are gods, and so you can kind of see some of the scale, a little bit of what they can be, and they're gods. So sometimes sure, like many gods of different mythologies, they can take different forms and different
Absolutely.
sizes. I bring that up because I know they're toys, and sometimes it's like, well, how would we represent these in toys someday? You've already got some people asking. So here's Alan Vine Jungle Figure Factory saying, give me a 2-foot Shogun Warrior style figures. Not sure if you guys are familiar, but
yeah.
for us old folk,
I mean, I am.
Okay. So as a kid, I grew up in a household that did have these because of my older brother. They're gigantic robots, and in the case of Godzilla, there was an awesome Godzilla, and then later a Rodan that complemented them. But they're huge, and so I'm just curious if you had your choice, and we went down the road later. Realistically, with the business as well, would you like to do something like he's suggesting? Because those aren't necessarily the same as action figures. They're made in a different process that could arguably be kind of budget friendly, depending on how you do them, right? Like
it would very much depend on how you executed them. In an ideal world, you would be looking at something that could be paired next to, to the engineering prowess of like a Titan class transformer. And that'd be something that's bordering on 20 inches, which in universe would be appropriate. However, in execution, highly unlikely if we were to retain the design cues that we wanted to make certain these guys possessed. So in stature, they have to be bigger than everybody else. It would be a matter of establishing how realistically bigger they could be. We would love to see, something. They'd be completely unique tooling to each character. They're highly ambitious on a project level just to begin with, but they were so integral to the storyline that we very much wanted a reference point for people to be able to start at just when it came to all the world building. But 11, 12-inch fit, even that's pushing it, but those that would be cool. 10 inches at minimum, that would be ideal.
All right. Well, I'm with Blake here. The presence and the description of these three characters also has me super excited. Okay, well, let's, quickly, this is still the homepage, but the prototypes we know are absolutely amazing. You and working with the Four Horsemen have done a great job. We talked a lot about that last time. So all this stuff is there. Go check it out. But you mentioned earlier the Pirate Codex. So here's the different sections. The Pirates Codex is, and so E agrees. The Pirates Codex is really where you've been dropping bits of lore and really helping people imagine, like, what is this world, and get excited about the line as a whole, right?
It is that
what do you want to highlight
for getting people story information?
This is the place. What do you want to highlight from this that maybe people should know that we didn't necessarily cover last time?
A fun one I'll point out, I don't know that we necessarily have time to examine all these in depth, but we just went over the Gods of the Tide Realm a minute ago. But the Saint of the Sea up there, that cool little illustration, which was circulating around our a piece of integrated story building surrounding the holiday season during Christmas. My
Mm,
wife and I kind of developed this enigmatic character of legend that circulates around kind of our pirate answer to Santa Claus. And we literally just did it for fun. And it's a
Mhm.
fairly short read, but my amazing wife drew that illustration all on her own, and it turned out
love
absolutely
it.
marvelous. Um,
Yep.
and so it's just this little tidbit to build out some of the atmosphere around the mentality of specifically the island of Corsair and the men that populate the world, and what kind of goes into some of the world building surrounding the Epirus realm, which is where the gods come from.
What's really great about doing all of this work and sharing it with fans early is that you've already got all this material that could be developed into something else, right? And you could work with other
Yep.
people who might be able to execute and share some of this maybe in little animations or videos or graphic novels or whatever.
Hmm.
But in the meantime, we don't have to wait. Like, yeah, help the hardcore fans who really want to know about this go and like learn about everything. You've got Abigail doing the writing duty, so you guys have all all of that kind of built in, and I think it's really really cool to bring us along for that ride. Anything story wise? Are you having fun with these writing all this? Is it still fun, Abigail, or is it
Oh
getting like,
yeah,
oh man,
yeah.
it's
I was
turning
just
into work?
writing about um something yesterday. I
Uh-huh.
can't seem to put Snitch down. He's my favorite, and I'll go ahead and
Love
say
it.
that without any shame. But
This little tidbit here, the gathering in the depths despair, is something that was especially fun for me to write. This went down
Yeah,
on
I just wanted
paper.
to highlight this because of
Yeah,
Abigail's snitch reference.
this is something that is probably well down the line when it comes to chronologically how it fits within the
Mhm.
story. However, it was the best tidbit we could give to the functionality of Charybdis's crew and what's going on in his world specifically. It's probably the most fun read we have there. Everything else is very circulates around getting that world up and on its legs like it is. But this very much just takes the time to stretch its legs and have fun with who these
Yeah.
guys are.
I think it was great. Just the sort of the who Snitch is and his role, and this notion that it is a world filled with characters, but each character in the background, a crew member or whatever, does have a story, and I love that you're
Yep.
sort of hinting at that they have personality and everything, which again speaks to I think speaks to your background and enjoying other stories. Right, some of the best
Right.
stories are the ones about that one, small character on the side that everyone sort of discounts or doesn't pay attention to. What was it about Snitch that has you so fascinated as a writer and as a co-creator, Abigail?
oh, he has some huge implications which we haven't divulged yet.
Ooh,
But
love
despite
it.
that fact, he's a very small, quite petty, and yet very intelligent little creature. And I just find him so amusing. Is part of the problem. I hardly want to write about anyone else is the main problem.
Very cool. I love that. I'm a big Star Wars fan, and gosh, I'm blanking on her name, but the High Republic novels, one of the authors was just like, I wanted to try something, and I created a character who is effectively a rock. It's just a rock, and people interact with this rock, and it seems like they don't move, like that's their species. And
Right.
it's similar to what you're saying. It's become like a favorite of a lot of people, including the author. So they're just like, I just keep finding ways to write them into this scene because of course
It's
they're
just
amazing.
very
So
much that personification of what we want the fun aspect of this pirate realm
yes,
to be.
yeah,
He's the constant little thief everywhere he goes, despite the fact that his motivations tend to change depending on who he's around.
hmm
He's what represents what makes it so interesting and entertaining. And he has relations with, you think it's interesting watching him on the Death's Despair with Charybdis. It's going to be even more entertaining seeing him interact with people from the Gentleman of Fortune.
Well, I think it's really cool what you're doing, building out this world. I love that you've got the website now and you're housing different things. Again, folks, go check out Tide Realm, Corsairs.com, and then the Pirates Codex is where you want to go for that. But there's obviously more. Like if you were to click on the prototype gallery, you can definitely see what's going on with these awesome figures that are going to be kickstarted. Hopefully, the first half
might be my
of
favorite place to go, simply because of the aesthetic draw. We were able to get some really cool storytelling images integrated into that. A lot of these hand-drawn faction logos that will lead you to each character's imagery. I was absolutely floored by this compliment the other day that apparently half of our prototype images looked like they were taken by Trevor Williams himself, which you could have knocked me over with a feather with that compliment.
That's huge. Yeah, of course. Trevor's amazing. He was in here. I was saving his comment for something later, but
cool.
Yeah, no, that's amazing that anyone would say that.
That's totally quite the comparison. I was, if I could turn a deeper shade of red than pink, I would have.
It's amazing. But I agree with you with this, and sort of there's other language on different parts of the side of like, join your faction. And I love that component. It brings me back to being a child of the late 70s, early 80s, and through the 90s of just sort of like, who's your favorite? What side do you want in this fight? And like, oh, these are the different gods and these are the captains. So I think right there is, and I mentioned this last time too, that I'm a fan of the three-way sort of, I guess, conflict or setup in that, I loved He-Man versus Skeletor, but when they introduced that the Horde was there or that the Snake Men were there, you're like, oh, wait, how does this work? It raised the stakes. It made it super interesting. All of a sudden, the villains that we were following now had a different wrinkle that they had to deal with. So I love that you're starting off with that. I think it's great. I'm really looking forward to these three figures. What I also appreciate about this is I am a fan of side-by-side shots. Like, because I oftentimes I buy figures based on aesthetics, but also like how well will they sort of, like size up and work together, because that's what I do. And so being able to do this and see this is really helpful. So here you go, for folks wondering about like Four Horsemen figures, these are Mythic Legions figure and a Figure Obscura figure. Good choices with this Marley too, because of some of what he wears and everything.
Marley's the reason, I'm just going to say, outside of, all of our creative prowess and imagining up this world as is, and the Horsemen bringing something unique to life, Marley is that mold that you can thank for Tide Realms coming to be, because I sat there holding him Christmas morning and I went, this guy's cool for two reasons. And one is the figure that he isn't yet.
Oh, sure. Where's the pirate? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a phenomenal figure, and I think it's a great jumping off point for inspiration. And really, isn't that where you kind of found out about the Four Horsemen? Am I right? Am I remembering that right?
That was my first Horseman product. That was what she gave me for Christmas 2 years ago, and that was absolutely what sparked this entire project, because I had no idea that company did what they did.
So you saw a great thing that they did. You were really intrigued. You thought there could be a potential fit for like the kinds of things you're interested. You're like, hey, I got your toy. I love it. Can you make my toy? And it's amazing how far that went. Amazing.
It's pretty incredible, because you can summarize it just like that. It makes it sound simplistic, but I think there's some beauty in how organic that approach was. And of course, 100%. Did we say it like that? No, but that's what you can boil it down to.
Super charming. No, I think it's really great. And I love getting to see all of these things side by sides. Cause I always say to people, I love, I love G.I. Joe. Sure. I love Transformers or all these things, but at the end of the day, I love toys and I love action figures. So I'm a fan of like this thing. And so I love to see how they all work and how they work together. So I think it's really cool that you're sharing this. I love, this one. Do you remember who made this guy?
That's the Diamond Select, Jack Sparrow.
And folks are going to be really
interested, or it's going to be interesting seeing people's reaction to just the comparison of the in-hand feel between Alistair specifically and Jack, because they're going to handle very differently from each other.
Okay. Well, I love what you guys are doing with this. What's up, Mikey? Ahoy, hoy, and ahoy. Good to see you. Jordan from Canada, great to see you well, and I appreciate the thought, man. Very cool, very cool. I would love then to transition from all of this amazing, like the lore and the size comparisons, and let's get down to brass tacks a little bit about how your things are going to be built.
Absolutely.
I know if you submitted and you sent an email, this is something that you send out to people this week, right?
Yes, that should be the most recent fan newsletter. We went into a little bit about, where we were at in the stages of developing the Kickstarter, what people can expect for the next few months, and more importantly, wanted to give the folks that have signed up so very early on from the website, which we're treating just like that Kickstarter landing page for now until it's up. This was that gift to folks for being on that website and being that committed this early on. And so this isn't widespread across the internet just yet, but we wanted to make sure our good friends that we're talking to in person, so to speak, like this, have access to this and our dedicated website subscribers. So this is the breakdown of how the articulation scheme works as it stands, and it's fairly straightforward as far as comparing it to other industry standard figures that even just from a basic Four Horsemen background, it's pretty easy to tell how these guys break down. They're going to articulate very, very similarly to a 2.0 Legion or even an AWOC figure. That's maybe even a better comparison. And so we tried to break it down as simplistically as possible, point out each and every articulation cut that actually is present on the prototypes, despite the fact that they are not articulated as an individual piece. That engineering is present within the suggested sculpting. And so these guys are going to be just as expressive as everything else they're related to. All of their accessories, or as many accessories as possible anyway, come on and off. And I think when we examine them on the third pass, actually everybody can hold each other's weapons. Like there is no sticking point between grips having a certain circumference that only allows for the character specific weapon. Everybody can interact with each other's accessories.
Sure.
And the legs especially are something I'm really happy with, because proportionally they're fairly unique to this line. And they still hit all the basic cuts and expressive points that you would expect from anything like this.
Tell me, you said the legs are proportionally unique. What are you referring to? Is it like the length, the thickness, or?
As far as the humanoid proportion of each of these three captains, and obviously that started with Alistair, they do have very long legs and arms. So Legions, just specifically, as an entity in themselves, they're a little stocky and they're fairly chunky, which makes them just all that much nicer to hold in hand compared to, I'm not throwing people under the bus, this is just the straight up comparison, because I love a lot of what Hasbro does. However, some of those figures are fairly small, so you feel like you have something very substantial when it comes to a Horseman product.
Sure.
These guys are the same conversation, but they're very long. And that was something
a little more live, a little bit more, elongated. I got it.
Yeah.
Cool.
We wanted some more realistic proportions as far as the cinematic flavor we were going for with their silhouettes. And so I'm very, very pleased with their autonomy and how that worked out on the basic Captain Buck. And we chose Deathmoid to display that on simply because he's what makes everybody drool. And it works the same across the board for all three of them. They will all articulate all at the same points, despite the fact that they have unique tooling for a lot of those points.
Got it. My bones shake bringing all the boys to the yard. Ray is asking about your soft goods coat, and if I remember, they're not. They're actually going to be a sort of a soft rubbery material, correct?
Exactly
Plastic,
the same way as the Obscura Marley's jacket does, and the jacket from
Frankenstein.
From Frankenstein, yes. And so they're sculpted in such a way that allows for full range at every level. They're not going to impede anything at any point, and they have a level of flexibility that's going to allow for range beyond that.
And I think what that allows for is this detail, the texture of the leather, the little barnacles and everything.
We had a different conversation when it came to what we wanted for these figures anyway. And as far as the detail, when it came to the villains specifically, there was something that we wanted to achieve that we couldn't really find a way to do with soft goods at this point in time. Now, soft goods are something we are interested in implementing in other characters in the future if the line and the company can grow to that level, but they were not necessary for these particular characters.
And so I was looking at this a little bit closely, and at first I was like, I don't see the hinge, but I applaud you and the Horseman on figuring out that hiding of that. I always love that when it's sort of well hidden. And so, am I right that is it going to break this sort of like rib cage looking thing, or is that an overlay on top of it?
The rib cage is going to function very similarly to the coats, or maybe more accurately, even the shoulder pads, which are going to be very flexible, and so it's going to get right out of the way of that articulation point, and it actually stops right at where the bottom there. You can kind of see that L shape in the shadows where the torso is connected to it, and so it will hit that midriff point, and there'll be a little bit of flex that it'll need to, you know, make the full movement, but it is a rubberized piece, so it doesn't have any trouble. It's actually very, very easy to get on and off, even the prototype, so I'm extremely pleased with how that came on.
So got it. So there'll be a hinge. It's well hidden in the sculpt too. I mean, you really got to look closely at it here, but then you've got that additional little softer plastic overlay of the rib cage to kind of hide it a little bit.
It'll function the same way as the belt as well. That'll be getting out of the way of the hips and stuff because it's flexible as well.
So it's all laid out there, and if folks want this, they could sign up for the email. Is that right?
Email newsletter, which is on the very bottom of any section of the website, and you just go to the home page, go all the way to the bottom, put in your email, because that is the best way right now to get yourself signed up for when that campaign page, the landing page, goes live, which you can do the same thing. That's even more imperative to get your name on the landing page, so that when that launches, Kickstarter will go live, you'll have your alert, and you'll be one of the first folks in line, followed thereafter by, we expect our Corsairs to share it in as many places as possible.
Yeah, I love it. Love it. Love it. So normally you'll see that QR code over there or wherever it is down there. And there's a URL popping up down. I'll share the links, and I will, but I won't share the links to this. So
those will be on the website very shortly. Those will be on the Instagram very shortly. It's something that I want to have one more conversation with the Horseman, and then it's pretty much good to go.
Very cool. And I love that you do this, and I especially love that you do this. I'm a fan of really looking at these things and kind of understanding what I'm going to be working with, and in general, just love looking at toy stuff. So this is an exploded view of Morningstar, and you can kind of see all the parts. I'm sitting here like thinking about the tooling, and I'm hearing cha-ching, but also just like the all the parts that are put out and have to be organized and pulled off sprues, and all the labor involved in putting this all together. I appreciate this stuff so much. So thank you for sharing this. I wish more companies would just do this. It would really help us all. And you know, we're nerdy, but yeah, I'm just, is there anything in this that you wanted to point out, or just wanted to like sit in all its glory, its N.E.W.S glory?
Well, what's nice about the way the Horsemen load out an exploded view of, you know, their engineering is it's very, very self-explanatory. It's giving you exactly how this thing functions from top to bottom, front and back, and all of the components that are going to be required in order to get it into mass production, which even any of the folks that are, you know, looking at this that have done some of this themselves are already going to have some numbers in their head of, you know, what something like a funding goal is going to look like, and how much of a meticulous process this is. And of course, so the more you explore here, the more parts are added, the more complex the two villains are, because as you can see, even Deathmoid there, his hair piece is a separate component. That chest interlay, which is unique to the good guy versus the bad guy, is unique. These guys have shoulder pads, whereas Alistair does not. And so they do inherently get more ambitious with each aesthetic cue, but you can see how linear the thought process is of how their articulation breakdown functions, how it relates to all the other pieces. I think even just an exploded view like this puts into perspective why the coats and the belts and the overlays function the way they do with these products specifically. how the weapons scale, how the storage has been integrated, and mostly just establishing that industry standard on almost every other Four Horsemen involved Kickstarter that I've seen. You can access this imagery of something that you are backing and investing in. And this is something that's very important for fans to be able to look at.
Yeah. That's a swivel here underneath the boot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Beautifully done. Yeah, I love that. Really cool. It looks really great. I'm assuming this is not what you bargained for, Abigail, when you were setting out to like, oh, exploded views of little people.
I had no idea that Quaid was even really interested in and invested in toy making specifically until 2 Christmases ago. So it's definitely been a wild ride, but I've been happy to be on it.
It's been a wild, fast ride. 2 Christmases
Yes.
ago.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing. It's again, we've said that this story writes itself, and the toy line very much wrote itself. You have, of course, the industry professionals that, they knock these prototypes out, and that was with several passes. That was with,
Yeah.
coming up against one or two aesthetic cues that we had to change here and there, and bumping up the process once or twice. But they knocked these guys out in 6 months, and they were ready to go. And there's been a couple of tweaks here and there. Like one of the things I'll mention that these don't display is the fact that we had to come back and add trigger hands, which is a fundamental part of, I think, most of the imagery that you can access now has those. This exploded view, they're not part of that, but they are part of the base package with the whole captain set.
Okay. Really cool. So if you're just joining us or you're not familiar with the Tide Realm Corsairs, this is a new line, fantasy pirate line that is going to be happening. So look out for that. There's a Kickstarter coming up soon in 2026. And these are the two creators. Okay, let's go ahead and shift gears a little bit. Thank you for that. Can you tell us a little bit about, like, I know there's the two of you, and we've kind of gotten a sense of how you're working together for the sort of world and the line. There's the Four Horsemen who are clearly been collaborating with you to get the looks and the sculpts down, articulation, and also final production and everything else. Who else are you working with on this project to give us a sense of like the team, give the team their due, and give us a sense of who we can look to for, look forward to their work?
Right. The team is extremely intimate at this point, as far as, our numbers are still skeleton crew. That's the right word for what we're doing here.
Hey!
However, right. so we've got our two artists that,
job.
Noah and Dimitri have done a fantastic job just helping us with our world building. But when it comes to in and out of person marketing, Terrence St. John and his wife Gina of Creative Realms, folks may already know them just based on their work at Legions Con. Terrence has headed up the Thousand Swigs event several times now, already a very well-known member of the community. And he stepped in and offered to supplementary help us brandish the advertising for Tide Realm Corsairs, simply because me and Abigail are based all the way out in Wyoming. And what that means is that you're boxed in and inaccessible to the rest of the world. That's what living here means. So the fact that we were at Legions Con alone was a miracle in and of itself. And it's something that just sustainably we're not able to do trips like that on a consistent basis. Now, Terrence already has a presence at a majority of the toy conventions for the next 3 to 4 to 5 months. And so there's going to be several places where he will be able to be found at those things like ZoloCon. We're looking very heavily at IshCon, which we were invited in, by person by Ish while we were at Legions Con. My wife was anyway. She caught him. He talked to her for a little while, and we had to revisit that like 2 months later when he got into my DMs. Was like, so what can I expect from you? And I'm like, I wasn't part of this conversation anyway. So I turned to Terrence, and he had us covered. And so we're still working on what folks can expect as far as from a booth and what the advertising scheme is going to be like. Me and Terrence are in talks pretty much daily at this point about what that looks like, sometimes at length probably first thing in the morning. There's a lot going on in the background.
He talks to Terrence almost as much as he talks to me.
Yeah,
in
that's
short.
pretty much it's pretty much what it's become. So they're very integral players. They're essentially, you know, he double checks with me first before he answers any questions, of course. But at this point,
Sure.
it's a safe bet that you can turn to Terrence if you have a question about Tide Realms, and for whatever reason you'd like to go there as opposed to Corsair. Either way, we're gonna have the same information for you. Because we're working in tandem. Terrence is also helping us pretty heavily when it comes to Kickstarter development and getting some of that structured out. Things like
Very cool.
stretch goals and add-ons, and you know, this campaign is going to be different than others simply because of the limitations we're facing just as a brand new company. That's an inherent part of the conversation, and so there's not going to be plethoras of add-ons and extra things as far as this campaign goes, but we're working very closely to make sure that there is something, because it's a part of the Kickstarter format, and that's something that if we can offer it, we want to. Any of the profits that come from the Kickstarter go right back into the product in some fashion or other.
Sure. Well, I think it's really great to be able to you know, build up the team and find the people who are down to support. And so I think it's really great that you're working with both Terrence and Gina. I think it's a perfect fit, as you said. He's already going to be at these places, and he loves, like me, to talk about great toy lines and indie toy lines. So shout out to Creative Realms. Yeah,
not the only brand, not the only people that they will be representing.
Yes.
Tide Realms is kind of the, forgive the phrase, flagship of the branding as far as this year goes, but there's going to be other people that are part of the advertising. There's going to be other folks with some supplementary material that kind of goes along with the pirate theme. That's part of the booth. That's what we're trying to structure anyway. So he's working just as hard as I am, and I'm pretty sure he's probably had a 12-hour shift today by this point. So Terrence is putting in just as much blood, sweat, and tears as we are. So these guys are a very integral resource. And this post is something that I put in front of people specifically very, very often, because it's very much giving folks the complete picture and the full transparency of the stakes that comes with a Kickstarter campaign.
100%.
The risk to reward ratio is just as depthful for the creators as it is for the consumers. Kickstarter is something that's very much built from the ground up based on momentum. And so those people that are there very, very early on in the game and have put their name, which is very, very different than putting your money down in the beginning, because the good news about Kickstarter is they don't charge you until you have a successful campaign. And it's all those people who believe in the project and are ready to support it from beginning to end. Getting in on there in those first 48, 72 hours is what tells Kickstarter to give it the attention it deserves. And so early investment is very, very crucial, as opposed to hanging on the back end. And Terrence does a really, really good job breaking that down and what that's meant to all of these already established creators.
100%.
Projects.
I totally appreciated this post too, because it's true. You know, it's just like this is something that I really enjoyed about the hobby, that we are getting new IP to kind of like go to, new worlds to explore, new things. I always say the kids need new things. Like, I know you like G.I. Joe, I know you like Transformers and He-Man. I do too.
Right.
But there's a whole world of possibility out there. You know, I think just this year we saw, like, there's a hunger for new things. K-pop Demon Hunters, I was just talking on another stream about this earlier, chatting about it. That thing took people, you know, by storm, took the world by storm, and it absolutely appealed to an audience that frankly isn't being served by He-Man or G.I. Joe at this point. And I love it. You know, my kids are super into it. A lot of my students are into it. So my kids are younger, 12, 14. A lot of high schoolers are into it. Kids from college that I know, like, it's just a new thing that I think is appealing to folks. And I'm really glad to see toys coming out of it.
I think we have a lot of large companies that are really, really, really afraid to try new things, because there's this established cash cow nostalgia based bias. And I think they just turn on autopilot and are very, very happy to crank out the same ideas from year to year to year and call that a day. And
Mhm.
while that seems kind of lethargic as far as a creator goes, it does give new people a really, really, really big window of opportunities because large
Yes.
scale corporations don't see it as one.
Yes, I agree with you, and I think at the end of the day, you know, I get it. They've got old properties that they want to keep making money off of, and they want things to be evergreen. Fine, but I also think there's a lot of room for new things. So when I saw
Yes.
the Creative Realms folks put this out there, that hey, these lines that you know, whether it's Action Force, Armies of Ashmore, Animal Warriors of the Kingdom, Biblical Adventures, Odious, Mythic Legion, Savage Crucible, like these all happened, and really thanks a lot to the start with
Yep,
these guys
absolutely.
because fans who are interested wanted to see it happen, and so this is why crowdfunding exists. And so I love the turn of here, like what is next, because there are a couple of great things coming up, whether as it shows here from the
Mhm.
realm, Carlos and Jorge doing their thing, you all doing your own thing, and then of course Ash and Oath who's coming, the
Ryan
Mythic
is
Legions
absolutely
RPG.
knocking it out with what he's
Yep,
got coming
there's
down.
a
As far as it's funny,
Mhm.
you get into the toy industry to make toys, and you quickly find yourself without any money to buy toys. However, Ash and Oath has my money as a backer, and I will be on that day one myself.
Same. Space zombies from Mars are gonna go at it. Like, there's all sorts of really great new things coming up, and I'm here for it because I think we really do need it. I love this though. It's like from the realm, Tide Realm Corsairs, and sort of Creative Realms trying to bring it up, and then this guy comes in clutch with what's up, Inhaled Farts, more toys.
This is
More toys
really not.
should have the word
We
realm
had
in it.
a big
Uh,
old laugh at Legion's Con between
yes.
all of us at once because it was very much a case of just, the indie toy industry is, as we're talking about right now, niche
Yep.
as an entity to begin with. And it's
Yep.
purely based on people not being aware of each other until
Sure.
they're an established entity. Nobody
Right.
went in the background and went, huh, I really like the word realm too. So
Realm.
no, I'm afraid that's not what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so Inhaled Farts, you're a funny dude. I will point out Brutal Realm should be on this list for sure. And that's
Yeah.
one of them, right? So I don't know if Inhaled Farts knows anything about Brutal Realm, but Inhaled Farts, you should definitely check out Brutal Realm. It's a
You
line
can
that
say
I
his
think would
name one more
totally be
time,
up your
Yeah.
just because.
Yeah. I feel like he should be into Brutal Realm. So check it out. And then there's also a G.I. Joe character named Airtight, who I think goes really well with Inhaled Farts. Sorry, that's a joke I've been making since I was a child. But moving on. So shout out to Creative Realms for doing their thing and helping you guys out. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit real quick. Like, there are definitely, as we've pointed out, other toy lines who are doing sort of the fantasy mixed with nautical sea creature type thing, pirates. And so, of course, famously, just really November of last year, a couple months ago, the Four Horsemen revealed their latest big wave for Mythic Legions, and it just happened to be all about the seas, the dawns of discovery as the ships set sail in sort of this new era of mythos storytelling. And they had the whole nine. You've got a crew of sort of seafaring group with Captain Iron Skull. You've got a ridiculously giant bulwark crab guy who will be fun to contrast with the eventual figure that we'll get from you guys. I really love the way they've approached their version of pirates. As Trevor was saying earlier, Four Horsemen aren't going to be doing quote unquote traditional pirates, right? The
Right.
pirates that have come out of famously Treasure Island that fictionalize a lot of this stuff, and kind of a lot of what they wrote in that book really stuck, even though it wasn't necessarily historically accurate.
Right,
Doesn't
whether it's
matter.
historically accurate or not, you got tropes
Yeah.
that you expect
Yep.
within that
They
type
created
of
the
world
fiction.
building. And
Yep.
I really commend the Horsemen for finding a very, very specific middle ground within what makes their world what it is, and finding something that they can establish that's firmly rooted in what their fans already know, and explore things that just are not present within that world. These two guys specifically, I'm very confident that we have legions, literally, of Legions fans that are eating these guys up because these are aesthetic tropes that I've seen between RPG worlds they're very much meeting that need. And these guys are impressive
100%.
in person. They just are. And interestingly, Otoben there was painted by the same wonderful talent who painted our prototypes.
Nice. Can you name them, or maybe you aren't supposed to at this point?
That'd be Eric Miller who's doing that one.
Okay. Awesome. Love it. Great job, Eric. I wasn't sure when you're working with the contracts and stuff what you're allowed to say, but as Trevor pointed out, they weren't doing traditional pirates, but they took their stab at it, and they, he's pointing out, yeah, absolutely, the figures that you guys are doing, the Tide Realm Corsairs figures, will work really well with what the Legions folks are bringing up. And so part of this wave too was like the accessory set, right? And of course, like this, you're into the Tide Realm Corsairs, you've got to have these accessories. And shout out, if you didn't notice in the video we were showing earlier, there was that sort of diorama of the ship. That's a lot of your work, right, Abigail? That the ship sail and all that.
We did that together. It took like 3 months for us to hand craft that entire diorama. And that was blood, sweat, and tears into that one, just as much as the prototypes were. Good Lord.
So that was the Four Horsemen, and I say Four Horsemen, and of course, what's up, Greg? Pops in. Good to see you, man. Let's see. And then I just want to bring this up just because it's fun, and I am a very old child.
All right, we're all kids here. That's just how it works.
Yeah.
And then Savage Crucible, you can see, I was trying to find their stuff, and they don't have it on the site because they are going to be, they're rolling these out, right? So they don't have it on their website because their website shows sort of what's on order, and this is not on order yet, but I backed these, and I got a bunch of figs from Wave 1, Wave 2, and Wave 3. So what you're seeing is Wave 1. I thought I had it set up good to go, but that's the plans.
Their harbingers are part of Wave 3, and I think there's something that you can actually order on, or pre-order anyway, on Big Bad Toy Store right now.
Oh, sure. That's right. BBTS does have them. But so Wave 3 is really going to take us to the sea over there. And here we are with the sort of Piranoid, the Fathom Scouts, the League Striker. They're all Piranoids. That's a species.
They're all very aesthetically consistent, and they're kind of army builders by nature. I think there's 5 of them, and they do get a little bit more ambitious with each guy. They're a little smaller than some of the other ones that they've already put out, and so I think they would be on the short side next to somebody like Charybdis, but I think they'd fit in really, really well.
Yeah, I mean, they're fantasy creatures. They're hunched over, which is a lot of sort of what we're seeing too in terms of height. And then, of course, their Harbinger of the Abyss, who's like a key villain in the comic books and the graphic novels. Very much, again, leaning into the eldritch horror, Lovecraftian stuff. So, again, mix and match your worlds. You can bring that in. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk a little bit about today. Oh, let me actually highlight this because I know you guys took a picture, some pictures with this for your toys. You seem to really be into this figure, right?
He's pretty darn cool. And he's aesthetically, as far as like an in-person, products that are in hand right now, he's the closest to what we're communicating. He's still very kind of gladiatorial, deep sea, like Atlantis, Aquaman aesthetic as far as what's going on with him. Piratey is not necessarily his flavor, but in stature and silhouette and intentional aesthetic design, he looks pretty cool with Charybdis, and I think that's on our Instagram as well.
Yeah, and I love that you're kind of taking a look at what's out there. I'm sure that some of these things are like it's one of these things where you're creative, folks are creative, but at the same time, we have grown up with and inhaled so much awesome fantasy stuff that there is a little bit of like a common hive mind going on a little bit, right? We're all sort of like looking at the same things. What's fun is when you take those influences and then we get to see what Abigail and Quaid are going to, like how they will take those in and present it, right? Just like Trevor was saying about the Four Horsemen, I think it's fascinating to see how the Four Horsemen would sort of produce or create pirates or sea folks, and
Absolutely.
I've loved that. So I'm very much a fan of rising tides lift all ships in terms of indie toys and toy making, and I love combining these things too. And I think there's something to be said about mixing your worlds together and seeing figures that are compatible. I
Well,
think this is a great
absolutely. And
figure.
it's a highly not only creative but collaborative sphere as far as the
Yep.
toy industry goes. I am going to forever be a continual proponent of working together. I do not see this field as there's going to be, I guess, a competitive nature to a corporate entity.
Sure.
But as far as the self-expression and what the landscape is for simply getting fun products in the hands of equally fun people, I'm afraid I do not see peers as competition. They are highly complementary and people that are part of the same team, even if you have a different vision.
Yep. And I think at the end of the day, hey, toy fans and nerds, we're winning if all of these things get to have
Nice.
some level of
One of us
success. And,
wins, we all win. And that's what I want to
Yeah,
continue
man.
to see.
Give me this guy playing with this guy, and I am thrilled. So
yeah.
All right, let's it's called Needless Ephemeral. We saw it. It's not actual news. It's me looking at a bunch of random cool crap on the internet. And I love to bring guests in. And I want to share stuff with you. So if you wouldn't mind, for the last, say, 15 minutes or so of the show, I just kind of want to throw in some ephemera, throw it up on the screen that I sort of was looking at. And I was like, oh, Tide Realm, what is the potential for a fantastic undersea world?
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying this stuff is like exactly fitting with your stuff, but I think it's cool things to look at. Cool art might give you some ideas. And I just, know you don't need to know anything about it. Just what are you seeing? What are you thinking? What do you like? What's, making you scratch your head? Game? Let's do it.
The only thing that's making me scratch my head is brick.
Oh, wow.
Brick. Perfect. See, Abigail gets it. It's all about the wows. That's exactly.
I was gonna say this makes me think of a certain line, a certain movie, Tiger Shark.
Oh, there's that too. Yes, Tony Zanetium. Sorry, he's got his actual name. It is Tony Zanetium. He's an amazing illustrator that I've been following. He's been doing like these daily kind of creature things where he's just like take inspiration from something and just draws a beautiful creature and shares it with us. And I saw this one, and obviously I thought like, oh my God, this kind of thing and this kind of mixing of fish and tiger would just be sort of fun to look at in light of Tide Realm Corsairs. How does it hit you beside what was the oh wow for? Curious.
I just wasn't expecting anything quite like that. I've never seen anything like that before.
Love it. That's I hope that Tony sees that as a compliment, because yes, the quest for originality and standout, right? It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it is.
I was gonna say, without revealing too much, this is touching very much on some things we may or may not have in the background. I'm afraid there was a question a little while ago about, focusing on creatures rather than just humanoids. And again, there's not a big enough winky face that I can give for that comment, but trust me when I say, just keep reading that story content.
Great, because of course it's the sea, and it's not just the people or humanoids on the sea. There's a lot going on there, right? So there's this, and just again, shout out, and I'll show you some of his stuff that he's done for I'm not even. How do you pronounce that? Come on, Tony. It's basically Creative January. Come on, man. But yes, create to whatever 2026. So what he's done is essentially sort of created a prompt list. I think this might be a collaboration, I'm not sure, but these are all things that exist, and sort of what is your either take on it or what does it trigger. And so this was his take on that, the Shachi Hoko. It's a mythical Japanese yokai with the head of a tiger and the body of a fish. I love that. Like, what can artists
really, really well
interpret? So good. Let's see. How about this one for you guys?
All right. Am I looking at some sort of horrific rhinoceros goblin shark thing?
Good enough. Yes.
That's all I could
This
think
is-
too, to
Right.
be honest.
I was thinking, yeah, like the chum, the cut off head of like a creature, very shark influence, very almost
Right.
walrus bit.
I was gonna say, what's making me sad is how very clearly severed this thing is, and so where's the rest of it?
Yeah, and Alan gets me, but I love monsters too, and this guy makes monsters for a living. Alan, that is, as does Tony. The prompt here, this is Adaro coming out of Melanesia. So, Melanesia, Polynesia, the Pacific Islands. There's all sorts of creatures coming out of. Oh, thank you, Mr. Ryan Clark. That probably makes sense. Like creatures. Duh. See,
Yeah.
you're brilliant. Creatures in January, January, but still a mouthful. I just thought this was cool. Like I can imagine stuff like this. Sometimes there's full creatures, sometimes there's creature parts. I could imagine backgrounds or whatever, or dios for your world. I love this stuff. I think it's just really cool. Thank you for taking this ride with me. Let's see what else he's got. This one I just thought was fun, amphibious a little bit.
Gracious Providence.
I kind of like it.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah. And this is, for me, what it's about. It's like, we know what a frog looks like. We know what a baleen whale looks like. And I love that they're sourcing all sorts of different things that influence this, different parts of the world, because this stimulates the creativity. So
Absolutely.
I'm just offering this as, just things for creative people to look at and think about.
That's a wonderful addition in that whole thing. That's
Love it.
That's amazing.
And then a little bit more on the sort of spider.
Oh, stop it. Stop it.
Yeah. Well, what is it about this one that's
okay? I'm all for that one.
Okay.
That is hitting real close to home.
I love that. I love hearing that. Thank you for indulging me. Yeah, I thought it was really cool. It's got the spider elements. It's very much got the crab stuff. I love the little crab little I don't know what they're called. It's not fur, but those little bits. I love, I play with my food. What can I say?
Spider shrimp. That's insane.
Yeah. And it's got that sort of texture.
And see, I can't do that. I can't copyright that one.
No, you don't copy.
Awesome.
No, you just celebrate or maybe collaborate. Reach out to this guy.
That's a fantastic idea. I absolutely love that.
But the colors and everything too is the other thing. I'm a fan of color.
It's really interesting.
What was the name of your creator god?
Starazoa.
Yes, I feel like he's got a creative streak in him. He's not gonna want everything to look, kind of the same. He's gonna create some cool
stuff. A little bit here, a little bit there. These snakes are a cinch,
Yep. Here's a little bit more in the sort of sea theme. The fascinating part of this is like, where exactly is the head? Kind of like an octopus, right? But
wow,
a fun combination of stuff. And that's my hope for, as people are creating fantasy worlds or whatever. Of course, having some connection to our world is probably helpful to give people some reference.
Yep.
But
absolutely.
man, the fun sometimes is in the way over here kind of ideas. So I dig this.
These last two here are probably my favorites. Those are extremely intriguing.
Okay, here's the best one though. You ready?
All right.
Because I'm thinking about these pirates, and sometimes the waters get choppy and you need sort of like that creature who will help you out. And so what about this one?
It's so disturbing.
No, I just said just as funny. But yeah, throw that in an accessory pack. Come on, that one's gonna.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's Deathmoid all the way. That's exactly what he's been waiting for. Maybe if somebody offered him that, he would be way, way less intent on bringing the world into nothingness. Because if you have nothingness, you don't have that.
It'll sell like hotcakes. Okay, let's switch gears a little bit to a different artist. This is Tiki Godaz, Tom Ardens, who has just done a lot of more like the Eldritch stuff. And again, I'm picking up on Charybdis vibes. Just like different shapes, and think about like you can tell that he studies a lot of sort of like actual insects or crustaceans. And I love that he's working that.
Very prevalent there.
Yeah, very H.R. Giger. And, I don't know. As a creative and a fan of creatives, I love to just look at different things.
Very interesting silhouette. The
Creepy?
textures. Well, yes, creepy for one, but the longer you look at it, the more you find.
Yeah. Some
Well, it's
beautiful
kinda
detail in
pretty.
that.
I don't know how
Yep.
something can be creepy and pretty at the same
It
time,
very
but
much is.
Absolutely. I agree. Charybdis is that way. He's a looker.
That's
True.
precisely what's going on.
Let's see. We've got this one a little bit more on the crustacean. I'm just thinking about like at the deep sea.
I like him. He looks like he'd make a great pet.
Yep, you want to get all up in those tentacles.
Yep.
Looks very snuggly.
Yes. Yeah, see, this is where Charybdis could sleep. Right inside the mouth or whatever of this thing.
Yeah.
And then this one's very much, this is like straight up like Lovecraftian.
Holy cow.
So again, but just thoughts. I've always loved the idea of the Lovecraftian Cthulhu type giants. Like they're meant to be these old ancient ones, and but then you can kind of see they're in the depths, right? Just
illustrations a little fishy.
Well done.
There's so much to take in.
Yeah, there's a lot in that one, and I like that the texture of the limbs is misleading because the longer you look in, the more it kind of becomes all one entity, but not.
Yep.
I
love this too. What's that?
I like the colors.
Yes. Again, I'm a huge fan of color. And so especially when you're like, if you think about this, it's a pretty dark sort of environment, but there's still the pops. And I think about that with like your Captain Alistair's eye and sort of those glowing kind of elements.
Absolutely.
Underwater.
Anything
how cool
glowing,
that would look.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything glowing blue within universe has some pretty big implications as far as its origin.
For sure.
The Tide Realms anyway.
For sure. Okay, cool. I'm picking up on a vibe. Let's see. Let's switch gears a little bit. This one's totally gonna be like, wait, what does this have to do? And so my pitch, or just to you as creators of a place and to everybody else watching, one, I love this person's work. Shinku Kim Art. Check them out. Shinku Kim. But again, fantasy, we've seen what knights look like and sort of these armored creatures. I'm always impressed when someone creates different silhouettes, the tiny head, that shape of that head, the big giant lumbering arms. And so it's funny, I remember the conversation last time of like a combiner god that you meant. You didn't say it was the god, but you said something about a combiner. And so that's what I was picking up on. I was like, what would a giant, like, I imagine like this kind of silhouette on like as you pointed out with the last god, what is it? Hurricane,
absolutely.
Hurricane, sorry. The notion that he's like coming from like the shipwrecks, combining like bits and like chunks of ships or whatever.
He is a walking sunken ship, essentially. He's all these massive bits of pirate vessels that have come together to make one big giant form. He's very much what I was talking about in that aesthetic idea anyway.
And so when I look at this, very much like the big chunky forms, I can imagine like the prow, side of a boat, and but also what I like about these are these sculpted details, so different, just like this. Yeah, it's almost like ancient humans, like early arts, like mandalas.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking of.
But whatever, your mileage may vary, but yes, cool stuff, inspiration, just talking nerdy.
I love the silhouette of that one. I think I saw a little bit of that on your thumbnail and was already intrigued.
Same, and it's like a tiny little thing, right? But you see the shape and you're like, what's that? They play a lot with this thing, and this was more of a sketchy thing that, again, I can now imagine steel from the bottom of the ocean, rocks, parts of boats, but then this the trippy face of like again, that very smart choice, a little pops of color or whatever to break it up.
Absolutely.
I would kill for these toys. To be clear, toy companies, if you want more of my money, make something like this. I'm in. And a little bit more of sort of that similar idea, but again, more mech. And I just keep thinking about the prompt of like a shipwreck combiner. And also just want to celebrate other creators. You know, I think I was on a stream
Absolutely.
earlier, folks were talking about AI, and this is what I want people to look at separate from the AI. Look at actually people who've like worked on their craft, have thoughts, and are
Mm,
putting it on paper or
mhm,
pixels for us to look at. And so
mhm.
anyway, that I knew that one would be a little bit of a departure maybe, but I thought it'd be kind of fun to look at. And
I
let's
think
look at
these
our
are
last
extremely interesting.
artist. This was also in the thumbnail. Now, hear me out on this one. Again, fantasy. So this is Darcela, who does, and his name is was it Daniil Tumanov.
All right.
Fantastic fantasy artist. His line work and pencil work, or I don't know, but their work is amazing. Clearly, this is more about fungi, like mycelial mushrooms and stuff. And you know, these things have sort of been out in the fantasy world, and he's developed these specifically for a game. So these are
All right.
actual like things that have been made. But just like look at the idea of like a knight, like that's fungus. Doesn't necessarily have to have the typical human proportions. Give me really long spindly arms and this
Mhm.
beautiful kind of collar of mushrooms. And I keep thinking underwater, right? Like the sort
Right.
of
It's a
coral.
very coral reef silhouette there.
Yeah. But you know, it's a loose connection to what you guys do. I just saw this and thought it was cool. So don't tell it. Yes, absolutely. Look at this guy. Very Nirasawa flavor. So cool. Absolutely. Man, there's so many. Like I could sit with E and talk art all day. But yes, and you can kind of see the process.
Mhm.
Gorgeous stuff. I love to highlight creators, period. So these artists are fantastic. A little bit more kind of on the same
Oh,
idea,
man.
same brief. Here's the
Yeah.
name of the game. So this is a
Look at that.
mycelial shambler from Mycena mortifera, which is a game by Bestiarum
Okay.
Games. It says an amalgamation of decayed corpses and relentless mycelium. The myconid shambler lumbers forward as a monolithic testament to nature's reclaiming power. And I keep hearing about the sea, you know, the idea of like nature just sort of
Mhm.
bringing things back. I don't know. It'd be fun to
Motivation
kind of
is very
see.
similar to Charybdis's goal.
Yep. Here's some of their stuff realized in sculptural form. Just beautiful stuff.
Oh, boy.
Looks like my computer hates me right now, but that's supposed to be video. Beautiful stuff, regardless, right? This is the
Right.
world where like there's a lot of not so beautiful stuff happening in the world right now. So I turn to this hour and a half and just my, you know, looking online for beautiful stuff, fantasy worlds. And I love what you guys do. I love what these guys are doing. I love having the space to look at it and talk about it. So
I especially like it in the 3D format when you can see an idea completely realized from every angle. It's well, that's what makes me love toys.
yeah. Yep. Oh, and speaking of love for toys, I can't wait to be able to hang out and enjoy your toys on my shelf along with my legions, my Animal Warriors of the Kingdom, my Brutal Realm. Yeah, man, I just think I can't wait to see these figures realized, and I'm really excited about the Kickstarter. So we are looking at, you said earlier, if you missed it, they were saying hopefully no later than May.
That's as long as
I know
we're
there's a
interested
process.
in waiting. We would love to, you know, even have it as soon as mid-April if possible. But again, there's
Yep.
lots of the biggest, most difficult, and most important part of a Kickstarter campaign is getting your numbers as accurate as possible, which is, you know, impossible to achieve perfectly on every level. There's always going to be something that you'll have to account a buffer for or something. But you know, I'm Captain Perfectionist here, and I want everything locked in, and I'm not a very big risk taker. So that's exactly what this whole process is strengthening me, and I'm having to practice those things of patience and anticipating for the curveballs that are inevitably going to be thrown your way, because that's how production works. Like I said a bit
Yep.
ago, it's not a
100%.
linear process. There's tons of moving gears to get something from a finalized idea to a finalized product. And so, but we have a fantastic team behind us that's helping us every step of the way, and a fantastic fan base that's already ready to jump on board the minute we're there.
So on that note, again, if folks are interested in this, you should definitely be looking for that page to pop up on Kickstarter and go look
That's
the launch
precisely
page.
that's precisely what I'm working on right now. We've submitted multiple drafts as far as the baseline of information we need to get it ready for Kickstarter to at least accept it as a viable project, and then we can put it in front of people as far as the landing page goes and get name signups for that pre-launch phase of the marketing, which is probably the most important part of this window of time we have between now and mid to late spring.
And I'm so glad you think of it that way, because yes, it's called crowdfunding. So we need to rally the crowd. And in the meantime, Abigail and Quaid are working on the story, the lore, giving us more to chew on and get excited about. So please, folks, you heard a little bit about that here. If you're interested and want to see this happen, share it with other folks. Like, share the website, tell people who are into pirates or into underwater stuff or eldritch horrors or fantasy in general to check it out. Check out the site to sign up over there, and we'll make this thing happen. Yeah, it's the plan.
Absolutely. We've interjected as much as humanly possible for even folks that haven't considered getting into toys yet on a baseline. These are something that we think is going to be attractive to folks. That Pirates of the Caribbean fan base spans lots of demographics, and it's something that we think folks are going to enjoy if we can only get it in front of people. And that's the biggest, most heavy part of the job.
You got to go find like aquarium shops and pet shops and like drop them into the tanks and let them sort of sit there. And people are like, what are those? It's the best decoration for aquarium.
Irreplaceable prototypes in a public aquarium. We'll see how that goes.
Maybe at least some stickers on the glass.
I might go vandalize one and throw some stickers on the glass. It's a Kickstarter link.
Right on. Well, thank you both for coming, and I'm so glad, Abigail, you got to hang out with us today. I wish you were there the first time, but I'm glad you were here. I can't wait till this thing drops, and I'm not the only one. Here's Travis, Mr. Wonderful, saying, so freaking pumped for this.
He was so excited, he doesn't even remember my name.
Wait, because of the spelling? Oh, well, see, what you need to understand about Travis is that he's like just barely functionally literate. Did I get that right, Travis? That said, he is a huge supporter, and he is aware of what he needs to work on. So he knows what's up. See, he knows. He knows.
That excited. That's great.
Exactly.
That said, we're about to end the show, but you should definitely go check out his show. They're going to be starting soon, I believe, in about 14 minutes. Is that right, Travis? 6 p.m., I want to say, over on Toilet Takeover. So check them out. You have a couple of options. I actually, after this, will be jumping onto another stream because I need to talk Masters of the Universe after all this news that we've been getting. So I will be joining the Geek Dad Live stuff tonight specifically to talk Masters of the Universe. So I will be going up, and Geek Dad Live will be going up against him. So you know what to choose. You don't go watch him. You can watch him on the replay. No, I'm just kidding. You choose what you want to watch. Him and Ed are dope. They're great. Are you going to be stopping by their show? Is that part of the plan at some point? Toilet Takeover?
That's a good question. I'm going to have to go through and look through the books again and see. And if not, somebody hit us up. Send me a message.
The answer should be yes, for sure. They're big into indie toys. And if they haven't already booked you, I'm sure they want to. So there you go, Travis. If you just check your email, it might be really misspelled, but it's probably there. So there you go.
We'll keep an eye out. If I haven't already run into it again, I got to refresh that we have probably 2, maybe 3 live streams a week this month. So there's a lot of new names I'm going.
That's
all
awesome.
Over again, which is a good problem.
You're totally doing it right, guys. And thank you again for stopping by. Hey, I'm obviously when things happen, the Kickstarter happens, I'd love to have you back whenever and just come hang out and let's talk about some new things, and appreciate you both. And I really appreciate, of course, and Abigail, very nice to see you in person, not just in chat.
Yes, it's great.
All right, folks. So look out for the Tide Realm Corsairs. I'll be on GDL in about 13 minutes, I think, cutting it short. But let's go ahead and end the show by me figuring out how I do that. Oh, I play music here. Okay, so here's where we just like wave and, yay. Bye, everybody. Thank you. Have a good night. Have a great week.
You guys have a great one.
Be safe. All that stuff. Woo, woo. We're dancing. You just can't see us. We're all really good dancing.
Dancing insanely good, enough to make you jealous.
Yes. Dancing like a crab right now.